Hey, I'm apparently live. I have no idea if anyone can hear this. If anyone's watching and can hear me, please let me know. Send a message or something. I'm trying to watch on my phone here and I'm getting no feedback. Way, I got someone saying they can hear me. Hey, all right. Thank you very much, people. So, as you may have seen, this is a very random, unrehearsed live stream. I don't have an agenda. I just thought I'd put it out there, and there's a chance that somebody who subscribed or might stumble across this may come into the lobby and they may type a question or two. Whenever I put out a video about Asperger's, which really isn't very often at all, I sometimes get comments which because I'm a bad person, I'll read it weeks later. And clearly there could have been a conversation going on there. And if I could do it through the chat, then that would probably work better. So given that I've got nothing really to say, I'm going to I'm going to pull up a web page about random ASPIE questions or common ASPIE questions, and I'll try and keep an eye on the chat just in case somebody does come in, and I've no idea if people will or not. And obviously, because I'm doing this, two things at once, I could easily miss the chat. So, all right, I've found a web page, living with Asperger's syndrome, some questions and answers. I'll just read the questions and then give my response to it. I guess I should put the URL up to give credit to this person. Mugsy.org, Wendy Quanda. I've got no idea what this is going to be like. I have not pre-read these questions at all. And in any case, this is just a filler in case at some point somebody does come along. If you come along and don't want to ask any questions, that's fine, but feel free to say hi. But if you have got any questions, that would be good as well. Obviously, keep it age appropriate. So just be careful what does get said. When did you, question number one, and how many questions are there? They're not actually numbered. Oh, there's only a handful. I'm guessing there's about 9 questions here. When did you first realize that you were different? I don't think I did. I think I was unaware that I was different to other people. Well, what can I say about that? I guess I thought other people were different to me, but I didn't think about me being different. So to make that make sense, I was aware other people reacted to situations differently to me, and things that I struggled with, they might not necessarily struggle with. So like in school situations, so this is all very abstract, isn't it? I'm not even saying anything much here. So like obviously fashion, kids at school, we couldn't afford to wear fashionable clothes, but the way people looked was really important to people at school, the way they dressed. And that was just a bit ridiculous. And that's a very poor example. Let me think, what else? I think I got frustrated by other people not getting stuff, not understanding things. So again, you'd be at school, the teacher says something, they'd say it once, and I've got it. And then somebody might ask a question, and I'd be sitting there thinking, but the teacher said that 10 minutes ago, why don't you understand? And because I didn't know I was ASPIE, I was constantly frustrated at school by people asking questions. Had I known I was ASPIE, I would have been able to be a lot more relaxed about it. But to me, there was a lot of wasted time at school with people asking questions where, okay, it might have been a few weeks ago the teacher had said this particular thing. And it's like, well, why don't you remember that? They've already said it. I saw them as being different because they were different to me. Okay, here's the next question. This is going to be a short stream, I can tell, as no one's here. How did it affect your family relationships? For example, did your parents realize that you were different? In retrospect, could they have done anything more to help you as a child? Okay, that's nice and personal. So my dad died when I was 10, so I've got very limited memories of him. I heard my mum say afterwards, that was after he died at some point, that he used to think that there was something different about me in that even when I was a baby, my dad thought that I was taking everything in and understanding what was being said, even though I couldn't actually speak. I got diagnosed in my mid-40s, and when I told my mum, it was a relief to her because in her mind, that was an excuse why I was the way I was. Because all my life I'd said things or done things that would upset her or make her feel bad. And that was never the intention. I might say things that I thought were funny, but it was never intending to make her feel bad. But once she knew I was Aspie and she realized at last there really wasn't any malice behind it, I think that helped her a lot. In retrospect, could they have done anything more to help you? Well, yeah, I was obviously as a child, and even now, I would say things as I meant them literally. So, for example, I might say, these clothes are too tight. We didn't have much money, so I was wearing hand-me-down clothes, and I might say, these trousers are too tight. And my mum would say, oh, no, they're all right. And I didn't like that because they were tight. How could you say they were all right? But I found out years later because she told me, because we had no money, she said they were all right because she wasn't in a position to get anything else anyway. Whereas as an Aspie, I'd have much rather she said to me, I know they're too tight. I'm sorry about that, but we can't do anything about it. We haven't got any money. But that wasn't the case. Her response was, they're not too tight. So all these little things where I could see something was true, but then I was told something else, even if it was for a good reason, that was difficult and it didn't make sense. And that still happens now, obviously, with a lot of my family, especially close family, are understanding. But sometimes somebody will say something and you cannot take it at face value, and it's very confusing. So the path I tend to tread, especially at home, is I just take people at face value, even if it's not what they meant. That's just the safe thing for me to do. And if it turns out it was the wrong thing that I said or did, it's like, well, I'm just responding to what you said. All right, next question. I keep checking the chat and there's no one there. So, okay. Fine. Next question. As a child, did you find it hard to make friends with other children, or were you not really interested in that? Well, on the one hand, I wasn't that bothered about it, as in making friends, but there was always at school one or two people that would say I was their best friend and this sort of thing. Certain other kids did seem to chat to me. There were more kids that would bully me or make fun of me or do whatever it was. But there were always children, tended to be more intelligent children, to be fair. There were always children, though, other kids that would chat to me and be fine with me. But I never went out my way to make friends. And I don't know if I ever, as a child, decided, I know, I'll go around to so-and-so's house, let's see if he wants to play. But then if somebody came to my house and said, do you want to come and play? I'd be like, yeah, right. And I'd go and play. Or I might arrange to go to their place at a certain date and time to play because they'd live in the same street. But I don't think I was ever at home bored thinking, what shall I do? I could really do with going and being with somebody else. That never happened. And it's the same now. I have heard that as you get older towards like your teen years and 20s, the Asperger's can often be less acute and less obvious, and you tend to be able to handle things more. And then when you get older, when it goes downhill, becomes more extreme or more obvious again. And I'm definitely in that part now. I feel like I'd love to be a complete recluse and just be completely left alone. That would be great. With friends or being with other people, what I like is to have intelligent conversations. What I'm not interested in is what your neighbour's doing for Christmas, or I don't know what your dog did in the park yesterday. But if you want to talk about something to do with current affairs or politics, theology, something that I can think, okay, this is interesting, I'm very happy to have those sort of conversations. But on the whole personal level, it's like, I just don't have an interest. But then equally, I wouldn't try and share that information about me with you, because I would think, well, why are you interested in that? Let me tell you about ancient Egypt, because that's interesting. What I had for breakfast, or if I've got a certain ailment, how could that possibly be interesting to you? Okay, next question. Did you have rituals, stroke obsessions at an early age? If so, how did they develop? And what benefit did you derive from them? Did new rituals, obsessions replace old ones? Do you or did you feel that you needed to control them? Keep checking the chat, still here alone. So that's nice. Okay. Rituals, obsessions, yes, probably, but because I didn't know I was Aspie, I was unaware of them. So I don't know, I might have my teddies lined up a certain way in bed. We used to say prayers every night, and I'd used to say something like, please look after and bless mummy, daddy, and I'd name the 3 kids, including me. So there'd be 5 people. Then each night I would change the order. And with 5 people, there's an awful lot of permutations that you can actually do. And that wasn't a ritual or an obsession, but I would just keep doing that sort of thing. Or something I used to have when I was living at home, I'd have supper at night. And from an early age, I liked to mix cereal. So I'd have like Shreddies and Rice Krispies. That's a tip for anyone. If you have cereals, don't have a bowl of Rice Krispies or a bowl of cornflakes. Get, like at the moment, I might have a Weetabix and add some Shreddies, add some cornflakes, add some Rice Krispies. That's what you should do with cereal. A bowl of one cereal is just craziness. Anyway, I'd get some cereal, which would maybe include some Shreddies, and we have a larder where the cereals was. So I go to the larder, get the cereal out, pull the cereals into the bowl, put the cereals back, go back to the kitchen, and there'd be my mum there taking a Shreddy out of my Shreddy bowl. I would then go back to the larder, get the package of Shreddies, come back, replace it with one Shreddy, and then put the cereal back. And then because she might find this amusing, she might do it again. But I would always replace the Shreddies with however many she took, I'd be replacing it. So I guess that doesn't count as a ritual or an obsession, but it's just something I used to do. There was never a ritual like don't tread on cracks in the pavement or something like that. Although even in my 40s, go back there, I think probably in my late 30s, one of my sisters bought me some socks for Christmas with days of the week on, but I could only wear them on the right day of the week. I just couldn't wear Tuesday socks on Thursdays, for example. And it, but there's probably lots of people like that. That's probably normal. Why would you wear Tuesday socks on a Thursday? But then when I was diagnosed, I realized, oh, okay, that difficulty is because I'm Aspie. And then once I knew it, I could override that in my head. So I could wear the wrong socks on the wrong day and it didn't bother me as much. So there are various things like that that have happened where somebody's, or not somebody, I've become aware that I do a certain thing or think a certain thing. And then I'm just like, oh, it's because I'm Aspie. That's maybe not reasonable. So something I did as a kid, I like to keep things nice. I would, if I got like in a cereal packet, you might get a snap, crackle, and pop little set of stickers or something. I don't know. And they'd be in a little um, plastic cellophane, whatever container you'd rip open and use the stickers. And I'd have to share that with other siblings. So, but when it's my turn, I like to keep it nice, and I wouldn't use the stickers, and I'd keep it nice because when you've used it, it's used and it's gone. But all the time you haven't used it, you can still use it. So I just kept things nice. So even though they're worthless, and I've still probably got some things lying around now, I just didn't like to open things. And something interesting about 2010 maybe 2010, my son, he I think started getting into Pokemon cards, so I bought a few, and I bought a couple of tins of Pokemon cards off eBay. They're brand new, still in cellophane. They're from the previous series. They're about, I think they're maybe a year old, so the old set, but it didn't matter. But once I got them, I couldn't open them. I didn't want to open them because once you open the tins, you've opened them. And I had no regard for value. It was just a case of I don't want to open these. So when we moved, we were living in Edinburgh at the time. We now live in Cheshire. Moved down here. They were just sitting in the attic for years. And then a couple of years ago, I went in the attic. I was looking for something, and I saw these. I initially saw one tin, so I went online to see how much one of these sealed tins were going for, and it was like you could sell them for a couple of hundred. So I went back into the attic because I thought I've got another one. I probably opened the other one, and they were both unopened. So these two unopened tins. And I think the pair cost me £30 or just under. And the reason I hadn't opened them was because I was Aspie. I like to keep things nice. So I went on eBay and I sold them for 500 quid. That was very nice. £30 to £500 just for being an Aspie. Okay, there's still no one on. That's fine. That's what I get for not advertising this, I guess. What was your experience of school like? Did you have the same problems at school as you did at college in the UK? My experience at school, well, I got picked on and bullied by people I didn't even know, but that was largely because of the way I dressed, and that's because I was wearing hand-me-downs from hand-me-downs from hand-me-downs, which I think themselves were hand-me-downs. So I was at school in the early 80s, and the fashion was stay-pressed trousers, which are like very, very straight trousers. But the hand-me-downs I had were from like the early to mid-70s, so these huge flared bell bottoms. But that's all I had. So, and I had the collars of shirts were very tight, small collars, and had these big, flary 70s collars. And because the way people look was so important, especially to kids, I just had all sorts of people in the school just calling me names or pushing me or making fun and stuff. And it didn't make sense because to me it's just clothes, but I was aware it was my clothes that did it. And then I got a paper round when I was, I don't know, 13 or something, started earning money. And then I bought, I think, one or two shirts for myself that were then more acceptable to look at, and one or two pairs of trousers. And once I did that, I went from having like 3 friends to actually just about anyone would be happy talking to me and being seen with me. And I think it was then that I realized or felt people are shallow and insincere. The fact that just by changing what I was wearing, suddenly people are okay to be with me. I was like, yeah, this is just it's just shallow. When I was at infant school, so when you're younger, like up to the age of about 11, 10 or something, so infant and junior school, this sort of how you look was nowhere near as important. So people were happy to be friends with me, be seen with me, might play together at playground, in playtime rather. But once you went to big school when you're 11 to do your O levels things, people don't want to be seen with you. And it was just crazy. So my experience of school was, one, the way you look was important, which led me to think people are shallow and insincere. I found school frustrating for the waste of time because kids in the class would ask questions. And then because of the inefficiencies of the lessons themselves, because kids will ask questions, you then got homework. And I'd be thinking, well, if the teacher were more organized, we'd get it done in the lesson. We wouldn't need the homework. But fortunately, I think by the time, like the last 2 years, I was doing 9 O levels, we got lots of homework, and all the teachers knew we got lots of homework. So I'd often go into a lesson, they'd ask for the homework to be handed in. I say, oh, sorry, I didn't do the homework. So I had so much homework from other subjects. I couldn't do it all, so I didn't do yours. And pretty much teachers were okay with that. And I used to do that to loads of the teachers. So that was a bit funny, I guess. Something else at school, this is at my A levels now, doing A level physics. And don't know if I should say this or not. Nobody's watching, I can say this. Hey, Thurridge Headville says they're watching. Oh, that's really nice. I'm going to type hello, see if you can see this. Hello, and look, there's a smiley for you as well. So I need to trust you now to tell me if this is too boastful. I'm just recalling an event. So A-level physics, I don't know, about 20 or so of us in the class, 20 or 30. And I think it was, say, Wednesday afternoons. This was in Chichester. I went to Chai College. All afternoon, you do an experiment, a physics experiment. And they used to do my head in a bit because the book you worked from would say, this is the equipment, this is the apparatus, this is the method, this is what you do, these are the measurements you take. It told you exactly what to do, and then the chance that you'd get a certain conclusion, you'd get results and a conclusion, but because the work you'd already done, you know what the results and conclusion should be. So every Wednesday afternoon, it was like turning a handle. You'd go in there, do the experiment, and that night I'd go home because it was A levels. I cared about it, I guess. I'd write it up, give it in the next day. I think we had a week to give it in. And I think I always got an A. But to me, it was ridiculous because all you had to do was methodically put the right headings, fill in what happened, you get the results, the conclusion, job done. But early on in the second year, the teacher remarked that there's quite a few people not handing in their homework. And he said, look, if you're not going to hand in your homework, there's no point coming to the lessons. So, hey, someone else has come on. File Evans, daylight duel. Okay, cool. So the physics teacher came along and said, right, if you're not going to bother handing in your homework, there's no point coming to the lessons. Now, I had been handing in my homework, but I took that as an invite of, you don't need to come to the lessons if you don't want to hand in the homework. So I then stopped going to these physics practical lessons because they were just pointless. And we lived near the beach. Well, Chichester's not far from the beach. So Wednesday afternoon, I might just go down to the beach and do something else. And then after a couple of weeks of not handing in my homework, the teacher called me to one side and said, you've got to be doing your homework. I know you're good, but if you don't hand in your homework, I'm not going to enter you into the exam. And I said to him, yes, you will. I'm your best student. And he said to me, yeah, you're right, I will. So he just left it at that. So that was quite funny. So, like in my mind, I wasn't being cocky. I was just being completely honest. There's no way you're not going to enter me for the exam. Um, so yeah, that was funny. I found it funny. Actually, the same physics teacher, the very first lesson in A level, he was like, "I'll just keep it nice and simple. Just talk some basic stuff." So he drew a right-angled triangle on the board, and he marked it 30 degrees, 60 degrees, wrote 3, 4, 5 on the different sides. And he was talking about trigonometry. So I put my hand up. He said, "Yes." I said, "A 3, 4 triangle hasn't got 30, 60 degrees." And he looked at me and he didn't like that. And so I suppose at that point he took my name. But after a while, he learned I wasn't trying to be nasty. I was just pointing out that was wrong. And something that did bother me at school in A level and also degree was when the teacher was saying something incorrect. So in the physics in the second year, again, A level here, still rattling on, not boasting. Okay, thanks. So second year, again at Chai College, A level, I think it was on a Friday morning, we'd go through the homework. So there'd be the questions and people ask questions and the teacher would be at the front working through it on the board. Then I'd invariably put my hand up and say, actually, there's a quick way to work that out. And I'd explain it. And after a few weeks of that, on a Friday morning, he just had me up there showing how to go through the homework. And I didn't mind doing that. And the reason I did that was it frustrated me that the other students weren't being told the best way or a nice, clear way of doing it. So I would just show them how to do it. And then something in the degree, so as a 3-year degree, the first year I did electrical electronic engineering. I think there was 110 people roughly in our class. I don't know if it's called a class, but whatever it's called at university, it's 110-ish people. And they needed a couple of class reps. I think they ideally wanted a boy and a girl, and a few people volunteered. And then they went up the front and did a pitch. And I had no interest in this whatsoever. So I was just like, a couple of people got volunteered and they were the class reps for that year. And then, of course, normal activity for me during the year in the lessons, I'll be correcting teachers. I'll be shouting things out, not in a nasty way, just saying, what about this? What about that? And then beginning of the second year, again, the first lesson back in the hall, the head of the year, whatever, came and said, right, we need 2 people to be class rep. And the whole class just started shouting my name. Completely unexpected. But I guess because I was outspoken and I didn't care about saying whatever to whomever, they just thought, yeah, he's the one that needs to represent us. So the second and third year, I was just unanimously, without even asking, just put in to be class rep. So that was interesting. And so there's lots of stories like that, I guess, when I was at school and college where I just said what I thought. Something else. Okay, there's no questions here. Shalom. Thanks. Jackie rocks. Cool. If you want to ask a question, just put a question up. I'll try and keep looking over at the questions every minute or so. Yeah, so at school, like I said, I used to get bullied, and that would come down to being just physically pushed. Used to get spat on by being passed by certain people in the corridor. And then in about the 4th or 5th year, so I was maybe 14 or 15, somebody was chasing me to thump me or something. So I was running, and I just thought, I'll forget this. So I just turned around, and then they stopped, and then I pushed them. And then we had an altercation, and they actually ended up pushing me through a window, and the glass broke. And so we were both supposed to pay for it half each. I did pay for it out of my paper money. I don't think he ever paid. But after that point, nobody ever bullied me again because they knew that actually if you push him, he pushes back. And I know you hear about this sort of thing and it's advised, oh, just stand up to bullies. But when I actually did it, I was like, it just stopped dead. I thought, well, that was very interesting. It's true. So, but I don't know. I probably said unkind things to people at school. And looking back, I know I did. But I never said it maliciously. I never said things to hurt people. I did say things that were funny. But again, that was just like a play on the language, etc. These things were funny. But I'm sure, especially girls, I would have said a lot of things that were very hurtful. Hey, that was me in school. Cool. Okay, Jackie Rock says, that was me in school, but I started that in kindergarten. Good for you. And I became the go-to defender of everyone else. Wow, that's fantastic. Like some sort of superhero. They do say that as Aspies like being a superpower, don't they? It's like having a superpower. I think it's got me some places of work that's been unpopular because I will stand up and say what I think, and the people in charge don't like to hear it. But then sometimes you get intelligent people at work who are running the place, and they know that what they want to hear is the best advice. And even if it's not delivered very eloquently or certainly not gracefully, they know the best thing for the business is to know the best thing. So I think my brother used to say about me before I was ever diagnosed, he used to refer to me as truth without grace. And I didn't really understand why he said that, but after being diagnosed and reading about Asperger's, I understood what he meant about I talk truth without grace. Lol. Okay, this is again from Jackie Rocks again. Lol. Except imagine a little girl defending everyone to bullies. It's funny that anyone was ever afraid of me. Yeah, bullies can be little people. A little girl be a good bully. I don't see what I mean. A good defender. Go for it. That's great. I think also, and this is me guessing because I've not read it, but I think possibly Aspies don't fear like other people. So I need to be careful how I say this. I really don't know how to phrase this the right way now that I've started saying this sentence, but I'm not concerned about bad things happening to me. It's like, because things are logically true or not true. I've often thought, like, if I got captured in a war situation, I was being tortured, I think I would give up secrets really quickly and easily because I don't want to get hurt. But if I was being tortured and it was a case of you have to say something that is untrue, I think I would just get tortured to death because logically, why would I say that? That's not true. So torture to give up secrets, I would absolutely blab. I'm sure I would. Torture to say something that wasn't true, I wouldn't do it. So if I had a political opinion on something, I was being tortured to say this other view is correct, but I didn't believe it was, I wouldn't say it was. I couldn't. That just doesn't make sense. That's just completely foreign to me. That was all from that comment there. Anyway, what's the next question? I keep checking for things over there. Experience at school. What about sensitivity to sound, touch, light, etc.? Oh, yes. Oh, here's something. Truth without grace is very true, but I would dispute that my understanding of grace is just very different than normies. They idolize nice. Well, I think nice is okay, but not the most important. Yeah, you see, I would agree with that. I find truth to be extremely important. How it's delivered for me is not important at all. But since being diagnosed, I've come to accept that the delivery is important to NTs, neurotypicals, but to me, it's not at all. And it is a minefield. One of the reasons I think I really like to be a recluse is if I'm not with other people, I know I'm not offending them. Whereas whenever I'm with somebody else, unless they're Aspie, I know I could say I'll do something that gets taken the wrong way and I've offended them. And it happens a lot. So it's like the safest thing for everyone is if I just stay away from everyone. But I've got a friend lives locally. I meet up with maybe once a month. He's not diagnosed, but I suspect he could well be Aspie. I know my wife thinks he's Aspie. And I can just be myself around him and say whatever I think. And he certainly says what he thinks, and neither of us get offended. And so that's like, I don't know if you know other Aspies, but if you're ever in the company of just Aspies, it is so relaxing. You can just relax, be yourself, say whatever you want to say, just chill. Whereas in the presence of other people, I'm always masking. And I've got to be so careful. And something gets said and you've got to run it through your head and then check what I'm going to say before I say it. And you have to do that in milliseconds. Otherwise, the conversation doesn't flow properly. And obviously, if I'm tired or ill or I've had a little bit to drink, then the mask doesn't work anywhere near as well. And people find me hilarious because I'm not being careful about what I say. I'm just saying what I think. And close friends, a lot of people find that funny. Other people find it highly offensive. I don't start swearing and I don't start cursing or using derogatory terms. I'm just saying what everyone else would. I say things that other people would agree with, and they're like, "You can't say that." And it's like, why? It's true. But then, under normal circumstances, I tend to be a lot more controlled, but I still say things wrong. All right, the next question on the list is, what about sensitivity to sound, light, touch, etc.? Yes, I've always been sensitive to touch. So it's a very strange thing in that I can get cuts and bruises and stuff, and I don't know I've got them until I see them. So it's not unusual for me to get hurt, and I don't know until I see it. But materials, I'm incredibly sensitive to. And I said earlier in this live stream that we had hand-me-down clothes. I used to have woolen trousers, and I'd be wearing these woolen I don't know if they were from suits, but woolen trousers to school, and they were really itchy and they were horrible. So in the end, I used to wear my pajama bottoms underneath my woolen trousers to school. So I was wearing, obviously the other school kids didn't know I was wearing pajamas to school, but even then I could feel it through my pajamas. And then some of the blankets we had at home, so we had sheets and blankets, they were itchy and I could feel them through the sheets. And I think my mum used to think I was just being fussy, but it drove me crazy. But even now, like, you'll always see me wearing like baggy, loose fitting type clothes. I might see a shirt or a t-shirt looks nice, I go up and feel it, and I'm like, I can't wear that. And I'd say, I would guess 70 to 80% of clothes I see in shop I can't wear because they're just too uncomfortable. So shirt and tie is really uncomfortable. So I used to, when I lived in Edinburgh, I might have to sometimes go down to London for a meeting, and I'd go on the train, and then, but I would go down there scruffy. I'd have a suitcase or a briefcase, and in my briefcase I might have a pen, bit of paper, and my clothes. And then just before I got to the office where I had the meeting, I'd find a toilet somewhere, get dressed, have the meeting. Then when I come out, find another toilet, get dressed, put on my more comfortable clothes, and go back. And we had a client in Knutsford. It's a 4-hour drive, 4 to 5 hour drive. And again, I'd come down scruffy, but then go to a service station and dress up. And it's just ridiculous, because if I wore jeans and t-shirt, I've got the same brain, I'm going to say the same thing. I may actually be better because I'm more comfortable instead of being a bit all uncomfortable in shirt and tie and all these trousers are a bit itchy. But so that's, to me, an example of other people being shallow. If you wear a shirt and tie, they'll have an opinion of you. If you have a t-shirt, they'll think something else. And that just seems so crazy to me. Right. Jackie Rue, I know one Aspie friend, but she lives in another state. She is diagnosed and I am not. But we FaceTime and just share our week with each other. We never feel offended by each other and just finish each other's sentences. We bounce conflicts off each other, and we both conclude that what we said was fine, and others are just very self-focused and sensitive. It's amazing chatting with her. Yeah, it's the best. I mean, that's interesting you say they're in another state. What state are you in, and what state are they in? I'd quite like to know that, just out of interest. But yeah, absolutely. If you're an Aspie, definitely try and find another Aspie friend if you can. It's just relaxing. I go to a local chess club, and there's a couple of Aspies there, and there's one, I think I'm going to guess 30, might be his age, give or take. But when we found out the other one was Aspie, we were both just like, and it was so relaxing. Here's a hint for you. If you haven't got any Aspie friends, find a local chess club, and there will absolutely be Aspies there, even if they're undiagnosed, because a chess club is kind of like socializing, but most of the time you're sitting there quietly and just moving pieces. And I mean, I've belonged to a couple of chess clubs, and even if you can't play chess, they generally happily take you in and someone to teach you how to play chess. But the point is, you can be there and you can relax. I mean, you can't just sit there and natter because there's chess games going on. But unless you absolutely hate chess or board games, that's the best place I've found to meet Aspies. Just go to a chess club. Okay, you're in Montana, USA. She's right outside Indiana, USA. How do I learn chess? Well, loads of places online. There's a site, chess.com, you can join. I think I'm a member on that. There's also Chess. And on those, they have training things and they can just teach you the basic moves. My son in lockdown, when lockdown started, he moved the pieces before, but he couldn't really play chess. He started watching YouTube videos by grandmasters how to play chess. Now he can beat me. He's really good, but the way he plays chess is different to me. And I'm sorry if you're not interested in chess. This is just a live stream. I'm just rambling. So the way I play chess, I'll look at the board. You have a maximum of 32 pieces, 16 black, 16 white. I say maximum because pieces come off. I'll look at the board and I'm not thinking X moves ahead. I'm just thinking that knight's in the wrong position. It's not good there. And I'll move it. And they're doing move. I think, oh, they just moved their bishop, but their bishop was doing that. It's no longer guiding the piece, so I can take that. So I don't memorize lots of lines. I just look at the board because one of my things is I'm very good with pattern recognition. I just see a position. I think there's a weakness there or there's a strength there. And I just move the pieces. And more often than not, a point will come in the game where I can just suddenly attack and get them because all my pieces are in the right places and they've got a weakness. Whereas my son, who's got an incredibly good memory, but he doesn't think like me, we think he might be Aspie, he's just learned loads of openings, loads of lines, and he can just rattle things off. We might go to chess in the evening, and by the time we leave the club, I can't remember my game really. It's like, oh, I know I played Dave. I think I was white. And yet we'd be walking home and he'd say, oh yeah, I did D4 and they did E5 and did knight to F3. And he just rattles off the game like that. Then he'd come home and he'd do the game on the computer from memory, and then he'd see where his weaknesses were, because somewhere like chess.com, it tells you what move you could have done. And it's just like incredible. And there's an Aspie at chess, maybe half a year or so ago. There was my son and this other Aspie who's very good at chess, and he's learned lots of opening. And they were in the back of the car just nattering about all these different openings, reading off different positions. And it was really nice for me to hear, but I couldn't really remember all that. And of course, I was trying to concentrate on driving. So we have very different approaches. But my approach means I can go to the club and have a pint of beer and play chess. Doesn't affect my game too much because I'm just sitting there very relaxed and I'm not straining my brain. It's just like I'm just sitting there looking at a board. Anyway, sorry. I'm a pattern seer too. Yeah, I think that's quite common, quite popular thing with Aspies. He should learn to count cards and get rich with that. Yeah, the trouble is, or the good thing is, all of my kids and me as well, are not the least bit materialistic. So they don't actually care about things. Could they? He might be able to pattern recognize. I mean, he might be able to count cards. Funny thing is, when he was like growing up, we homeschooled our kids, partly because, well, one of the reasons was I found school such a waste of time. But you'd be talking to him, he'd just be like this, and he'd be looking around the room, and you think he's completely not listening. And then you'd ask him questions, and he just answer them. And so I mentioned this friend. He's a retired school teacher. He used to teach, I think, Latin and Greek and Hebrew and probably various other things. And so about 2-3 years ago, because my son, I think he probably done a little bit of language, different things, he started teaching my son biblical Greek and Hebrew. And as far as I'm concerned, my son can now read that and he's pretty good. And now he's obviously looking at the whole theological side of that. And languages, two things I'm awful at. One is languages, and the other one is singing. But I'd love to be able to sing. But languages are just such a mystery. And then for fun, recently, he's been learning Russian. It's like, he's got no use for it, but he's thought, oh, I'll learn Russian now. And then my youngest daughter, who's been pre-diagnosed as Aspie. So she is Aspie, but in the UK, wait until she's 18, it's then much cheaper to get an official diagnosis. And she's learning, I don't know, I'm going to say French, Spanish. I think she's doing Japanese. And she seems very good at it. And she totally doesn't get that from me. Okay. Have you read all those books behind, and do you agree with what they say? I'm guessing you know what they are. Okay, so over here, for those that are wondering, these are Jehovah's Witnesses books. Rather, these are Watchtower books, but it actually predates when they were called Watchtower. I've also got a load in the cupboard up there, and I've got some down under here. I'm very interested in theology. I'll talk to anyone of any religion. I'll let them say what they think. I ask them questions, and they'll say what I think. We have a good dialogue. But something I found with Jehovah's Witnesses quite early on, because you can talk to them, but you can also go online and find things out. I would say, oh, did you know that back in the 20s, the teachings of the Watchtower, well, they weren't called the Watchtower, then they were the Bible students, I think. I think the Watchtower, they were called Jehovah's Witnesses from the early 30s. But you'd say, oh, back in, so like in the 30s, did you know that Rutherford taught so-and-so? And it's like, no, they didn't. I was like, yeah, they did. I read it online. Oh, you can't believe what you read online. It's apostate lies. It's like, oh, great. So I said, if I could show you in an actual official Watchtower book, then would you believe that that's what was taught? They'd be like, yeah, okay. So I've spent hundreds of pounds. I mean, some of these books are quite cheap, but some are actually very, very expensive. So I've spent a lot of money. I've not read them all, but I read parts of them. I flicked through them and I found some amazingly interesting things. And it's in no way to belittle them, but it's so I can have a dialogue with them and to say, look, no, actually, you did think that, because look, if you look in this book, this is what you wrote. And it's just amazing how many people don't know why they believe what they believe. They believe things they're told, but not beyond that. And I'm not picking on JWs. I don't know any Mormons. In my life, I've come across several Jehovah's Witnesses. I've never had contact with a an active Mormon. If I met a Mormon and we hang out, I'd love to talk about all that stuff. And no doubt I'd have to start buying books about Joseph Smith to be able to converse with them, because no doubt there are things about their past that they're unaware of. But it'd just be like a friendly, nice conversation. Yeah, some of the early stuff is absolutely amazing. And I'm sure if I was alive 130 years ago when it was, I can't remember the first guy's name now, that's Charles Taze Russell, the way he laid things out and his arguments were brilliant. Time has shown them to be completely wrong, but they were very, very well put together. And I could have easily believed what he was saying because it was very convincing, but it's not true. Anyway, right. Yeah, so that to answer the questions, I've not read all of them, but I know what's there. Not get rich for the sake of being rich. This is going back to the card counting, but just to say you messed around one day and won a lot of money, then go back to normal life again. Yeah, I tried to get my boy interested in the stock market, just like bet a few pounds, because you can like do day trading. Don't a boy if you're not interested in stocks and shares, but you can, as a trader, you can buy and sell the same day, and there's certain indicators like the MACD and whatever else where you can see a share is likely to go up or down, what's worth buying, worth selling. But the trouble is he would get up really late in the day, and you really want to be online when the market's open. So he did it for a little while, but then he wouldn't bother logging on, and so it's just like, oh, that was a complete waste of time for him. But yeah, I think if you're good at math, good at pattern recognition, you absolutely could make money with possibly card counting, but you get kicked out of a casino if you do that. With blackjack, as far as I know, blackjack or 21 is the only game in the casino where if you play it correctly, you can have a slight edge on the what do you call it, on the house. But it's so small, it's something like 0.07% advantage to you. So that means for every £100 you bet, 1% would be £1. So it's like you get 7p or maybe 70p. It might be 0.7. But the point is, you'd have to sit there for hours and bet so much money to make enough money to pay for a drink. So it might be fun from the point of view of, hey, I broke even and made a bit of money. But it's, for me, I think that'd be a very boring way to make money. Have you read this book? Okay, Jack, Greek and Hebrew is one of my aspirations too, but currently homeschooling my 6-year-old and planning more kids, so I haven't begun the languages. If you know a good language learning resource, yeah, my local friend, if you want to live in the UK, I'm sure he'll teach you. Lots of Mormons here, being near Utah. Yeah, I'm aware of Salt Lake City. They even come door to door here. My chiropractor is even Mormon, but more LTE. LTE. I can't think what LTE would mean. Sorry. Yeah, thank you. There you go. Jackie, Duolingo is pretty good. Yeah. So my youngest daughter, who learned those languages, I think she did a lot of that on Duolingo. I have no idea if Duolingo does the biblical Greek and the Hebrew or not. So obviously it was biblical Hebrew that my sons learned, ancient Hebrew, not modern Hebrew. But it is good because, again, something with Jehovah's Witnesses, you try and talk to them about a biblical passage and you say, okay, well, your New World Translation says this, but the Greek says that. And they say, well, do you know Greek? And the thing is, because of my friend of mine, saying, oh, yeah, my son does. And because one of their arguments is, but you don't know you're right because you don't know Greek. And so without learning Greek, I personally couldn't have that conversation with them. But they have something called the Interlinear Bible, where they have the Greek, and then word by word, they have their English translation. And just from that, you can point things out. Like, I mean, I've got some JW's friends, and I've worked with Jehovah's Witnesses, and I've worked with an ex-Mormon, and they're excellent workers. So if I've had my own company before, if I had another company, I would absolutely hire a JW because their work ethic is very good. LT, just slang for light. Okay. I think it does Hebrew. Okay, yeah. Thank you then. I wish I knew how to say thorough Hedgefield. I have no idea what that is. And is that like the place the Sylvanians used to live or something? Maybe I should Google it sometime. I have no idea what that is there. So I'm happy to look at the chat and answer any questions there. Otherwise, I just keep reading these silly questions. Loving the colourway books. Yeah, well, you see, that's crazy. You go to someone's house, they have this bookcase, and they may have it by author, or I don't know if they've got a system or not, but the colors are all over the place. And it's like, how often do they go to that bookshelf to get a book? And when they do, how often does it take to pick out a book? And it's like, even if they're supposed they got them alphabetical, they're color-wise going to be a complete mess. So you may as well do it by color and spend an extra 20 seconds finding the book when you want it, because the rest of the time it's like a bit of the furniture. And although I'm not into so much the way things look, you may as well make the books look nice. So yeah, I was at someone's house, I think my brother's house, a couple of years ago, and his books were hickety picketed. I think I started rearranging those by color. It just looks nicer. Why wouldn't you do that? Yeah. So yeah, they're not chronological order. Some of the books, all the I've got some very big Bibles there. I won't go on about what the books are, but I've got some very interesting, very old books. Loving the color. Thera Hedgefield. Thank you, Thara Hedgefield. Wonder if it works with underwear. Okay, underwear. So let's talk about clothing for a while. So here we've got a wash basket, a linen basket on the hallway, and we all just put our clothes in there. And then something happened with elf fairies, and a bag appears in the bedroom after a while, and it's got all the washed clothes in, all nice and dry, ready to be put away. But I think the kids as well often don't bother putting away, because you've now got a bag with clothes, and okay, it's t-shirts, socks, other underwear all mixed together, and I just take them out of there each day when I need them. But then after a while, after a few days, my wife will ask me, can you please put your clothes away because I need the bag again? So then I have to take the clothes from the bag, put them in various drawers, and then when I need them, I have to go to the, I don't know what you call underwear, but go to the drawer. I might have pants in, or boxers or whatever, briefs, and then a different drawer's got the socks. And that is a lot more effort than just going to this bag that's got it all in. And in the bag, you can just have a quick look and say, okay, well, that's that, got it. So for me, just having a single container, because I could get by with just a few socks, a few pants, a few t-shirts, 2 pairs of shorts, job done. They'd all fit in a bag. Why would you then want to put them all in separate places? And every day you want something else, you go to all these different places. It's like, but anyway, I never get to see these little elves that do all the cleaning magically and make the clothes reappear. But I don't know what they'd think about all this. Anyway, I saw the rainbow book method on an organization. I've never heard of the rainbow book, except with the encyclopedia and presidential books. Jonathan, it totally works with Underoo, but only in the trifold display method that the Japanese woman teaches. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Underwear. Yeah, very good. Are you able to empathize and understand other people's emotions? Yes and no. If I've been through the same thing. So I like cats. I tend to, as a generalization, you get cat people and dog people. Some people genuinely like both, some like neither. But often you like one or the other. I like cats. So if somebody has a pet cat and it's ill, maybe needs to be put down, something bad happens, I can feel very sad about that. And I can genuinely say to them, I'm very sorry about, I don't know, your cat, whatever it's called. If someone's got a dog and something happens, I got no connection. So I can intellectually be aware they're upset, something's happened to their dog. But I got no feelings for dogs, but I've got feelings for cats. So if somebody's lost one of their parents, both my parents are dead now, I know what that's like. So there's something common there. So to an extent, I guess I can empathize there. But if somebody's car burnt, they lost their car, that's like, okay, I've never lost a car through burning, but if I did, I'd get another car. So that's a bad example. But yeah, I do find some people get upset about what I think are the most ridiculous things. It's like, well, why are you upset about that? So I work from home now, but I used to drive to work. So my wife and I both had a car. We still both have a car, actually. And mine, I don't know if it was me, but might have a couple of dents and scratches in it. But it turns out the car still drives just as well. I can still get from A to B. It's not affect the mileage. Great. And yet my wife, she got some scratches and things on the car. And then she had a bit more of a bump. And so we got that fixed. And at the same time, I paid extra to get these other scratches all sorted out because she wanted the car to look nice. And for me, in my mind, that's a complete waste of money because as long as it's still going to pass the MOT, it's structurally safe. I don't care. The car could look like Axel Foley, his car, as long as it works, or Columbo, his car. Yeah, Columbo, his car. So it doesn't matter. It works. And yet to my wife, it's really important that the car looks really nice. So that doesn't make sense. But I think guys generally, that's probably not an Aspie thing. Guys generally are more into things being functional. And I think girls, as a general rule, are more into aesthetics. Yeah. So sorry. So that's that. There's me rambling on. I think it's a genius idea. Okay, you're talking about underwear still. That's fine. Yeah. So I'm sensitive to touch, light. I've never had an issue with light, but I'm aware of some people are triggered by lights in supermarkets and other things. Sound, I am. Sound can really irritate me, but it's got worse now because the last few years I've got tinnitus. So I've constantly got a ringing in my ear, and my brain is constantly going. It's always conversations going on in my head. And if someone else is talking or somebody wants me, and especially if it's something trivial, that's really difficult because I've already got the ringing sound. I've already got these things going on in my head, and now I've got to try and park what's going on in my head or try and ignore that and listen to this conversation over there. So yeah, so sound yes, light no, touch yes, taste. When I was younger, my mom thought I was a really fussy eater. I pretty much ate Rice Krispies and baked beans, and that was pretty much it. But other food tasted really, really bad. But as I got older, my sensitivity to taste lessened, and I can pretty much eat anything now. Yeah. So that okay. Anything going on over here in the chat? I have an older track that has lots of little dings. This is from Jackie Rue again, but that's the whatever car. I try to keep the SUV nice, but it has normal wear, and I'm fine with that. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with people wanting vehicles to look nice, but again, that's not for me. So when I bought the last car, something that's popular in the UK is you do this system where you get a brand new car and you pay quite a lot of money per month, and after 3 years, you can either buy it or you can give it back in more or less perfect condition and then get another car, brand new car for 3 years. So I looked at that and I thought there's absolutely no point me doing that because there's zero chance I'm going to be able to hand a car back without all these different dings and scratches. And it's like, what's the point? I'd rather just have a car that gets around. But I got a personal loan to get the car, even though I didn't need to. But the reason for that was the interest rate was, goodness me, it was really small. I don't remember what it was, but I worked out that allowing for even just average inflation, this is going back a few years, by the time I paid it off, it would have cost me less, even with the slight interest rates, than if I'd paid it all at the beginning, because at the end, that's about £100 a month. £100 after 8 years is worth a lot less than £100 8 years earlier. And so it's like, that was a very easy equation, but that wasn't guaranteed against the car. That was just a personal loan guaranteed against nothing, and I'd pay it back. But like I said, I didn't need to do that, but it made sense financially. It's like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. Anyone got opinion on Nissan as a brand of car? I expect lots of people have. Jackie Roo, here's something I always wonder about. I'm said to have mostly masculine personality trait, and I wonder how much of that is Aspie versus actually masculine. I'm just not emotional and logical. You mean you are logical? Yeah, I would suspect that's probably more down to being Aspie. And also, I don't know if you've ever done the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, but like if it happens that you're an INTJ, for example, as a girl, then yeah, I'd say it's just an Aspie thing. But yeah, that's good. I do find the whole emotional people get upset and emotional about the strangest things I find, or things that I consider strange. There was an interesting thing happened in the house today, but I don't think I should say it just in case my wife ever watches this video. But yeah, things that people get upset about some of it seems very strange to me. Okay, I've done the empathize one. What are your views on the various therapies, treatments currently available? I have no view or opinion because I know nothing about them. I took Jordan Peterson's test, not the one you mentioned. Yeah, I know Jordan Peterson rubbishes the MBTI. I should maybe put a link in there for 16 personalities, just in case any of you want to do it. I did a video about this actually, about the NTGI and why I find this so useful. But the reason I'd summarize what I said in the video, I can't find the tab now that's got this live stream on. There it is. You're off the scale. Yeah, I bet you are. It'd be interesting to know if maybe after this video you can do that 16 personalities test. And then maybe next, if I do another one of these, if people like me doing this sort of thing, let us know what you are. But I wouldn't. I've heard Aspies tend to be one of 5, and there are 16 types. So before I knew about the MBTI, there was basically one type of person. They were shallow and insincere. And then when I came across the MBTI, suddenly there were 16 types of people. Now, it is quite basic, but once I know somebody's personality, I know what triggers them, what they like, how to interact with them, and it makes them more comfortable. And I also know there's 1 or 2 types that I'm just really not going to get on with. Now, the funny thing there, one of my sisters, one of the types I don't get on with, I think from memory, I could be wrong, was ESFJ, which one of my sisters is. But because she grew up with me and she knows me and she knows my quirks, she actually likes me okay. But the average ESFJ that would come across me, and I think it's ESFJ. Yeah, the average ESFJ would find me very difficult. And if I've got maybe I've got the wrong type here, but I think it's ESFJ. They tend to mask. So what they do, so I'm talking about my sister here, not necessarily my sister, but all the other ESFJs, especially female ones, they like to give the impression that they've got their life in order and everything's okay. And so if you ever see 2 of them meeting and then talking, they're both very prim and proper and trying to make everything's all right. And you'd have to get quite close with them, or they'd have to be in a very bad place for them to open up and let you know that they're struggling with this, they're struggling with that, and all these issues they've got. Whereas you get other types like an ESFP, they wear the emotions on their sleeves. You've met them for the first time, and they're already telling you about their bowel movement. And they're just like completely different types of people. But once you know what type of person they are, you know how to interact. And if you're INTJ and you meet another INTJ, it's like meeting an Aspie. You can say what you like. You're not going to upset them. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're asking about being Aspie. Have you looked at ADHD testing? Okay. Yeah. It's funny. I sometimes think I'm ADHD, and then I look online about what it is. I think, oh, I can't be because of that. But I'm kind of thinking, yeah, maybe I am, because I do get very easily distracted, and I absolutely can hyper focus. And I think that's like what 2 of the traits are. And if I'm not intellectually stimulated, something is incredibly boring. So like trivial work, it's really hard for me to concentrate on. Just like, oh, come on, this is a waste of time. So yeah, I believe my youngest daughter that's been pre-diagnosed Aspie has also been pre-diagnosed as ADHD. She's also Erland's, which is this thing where you need to wear different colored lenses to be able to read properly or something. I don't fully understand it, but it's apparently a real thing. It's not something I've got. I think I took the test nonchalantly years ago, but the results seemed to me to be ego fueling rather than honest. Or maybe I'm confusing. No. See, that's the funny thing with the MBTI. You'll take it, and pretty much everyone who takes it agrees with, oh yes, that is the type I am. But they also think, but that's clearly the best type. And then even on the site itself, it's say famous people that are of this type, and you can see the pros and the cons. So I understand the whole ego fueling thing, absolutely. But on the other hand, for me as an Aspie, I found it helpful. And once I knew about it, I can try and second guess what someone's MBTI is, and then I can try and interact working on that second guess thing. I thought ADHD was contradicted by hyper. Yeah, you see, so that's the thing. But then I've also heard of ADHD. You can have hyperfocus and ADHD, but then there's also so it's like with Asperger's, they're not all the same. I think there might be slightly different flavors of ADHD, but I could be completely wrong. But like as an Aspie, you can get completely lost in what you're doing and oblivious to everything else. And I thought ADHD can also do that as well, but I could absolutely be wrong. It's a long time since I looked at this. Flevens, I hope I'm saying that right. Filevens, sorry, the font's very small. See if I can make the font a bit bigger for me. Hey, I can make it bigger. Technology, isn't it wonderful? What kind of personality is that never puts a pretense or facade on and just acts themselves? INTJ, which is my type generally, and ESFP, which is the exact opposite. So an ESFP would come across as being incredibly bubbly and happy and say whatever they think because they're very open. Whereas an INTJ, I don't come across as being bubbly. I mean, the happy's whatever, but I will tend to say what I think. But that's just coming from a true thing as opposed to I don't care. But maybe an ESFP, by being so open, they're just naturally more likable. And so ESFPs are generally liked by lots of people. But I think maybe the average ESFJ may struggle with the average ESFP because the ESFJ is trying to be all prim and proper, everything's okay, and this ESFP is just over there being riotous and center of attention, and they shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be acting about that. Why are they talking about that? And it's really crazy. But I said about my sister that's ESFJ. There's another sister that's ISFP, which is one of the best types to get on with me. And the things I can say that will make that sister laugh, the ISFP, is different to the ESFJ sister. And I don't know if they're aware of the differences, but it's quite funny. So I can say some very dark things and the ISFP will laugh and the ESFJ will look more concerned and like, that's a bit worrying. So it's quite funny, but I love them both very much. People who pretend, yeah, the pretend type is the ESFJs pretend. ISFJs can a bit as well, but the site, if you look at the link maybe later, the site says an awful lot more than I can ever say about the subject. But if in your mind there's one or two types of people, you may find it helpful. And when I first did this, well, I did this years ago, I asked everyone at work to do it, and a good number of people did. And once they did it, I was able to interact with them better. There's a handful of people that didn't do it, didn't want to do it, but the very fact they didn't want to do it meant I could think, well, they're probably that type or that type, because all these other types wouldn't have a problem doing it. So it was interesting from that point of view as well. Now I was looking to only do this for about an hour, and I see I've just gone over the hour mark, and this was purely my first ever live stream. It's great. Oh, there's 7 people here now. That's great, and I got 3 likes. Thanks. So, if you'd like me to do this sort of pointless rambling again another time, I'm very happy to do it. It's no effort by me. It feels a bit funny, especially at the beginning of the stream where no one's on. So yeah, I'm going to go now. NTJ for the win. Yeah. Oh, I wonder what type you are. ENJT. Yeah, very good. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much sincerely for being here and part of this chat. It became a whole lot easier once the comments started coming in and people started watching. Yeah, thanks for doing it. It's been a blast. All right, then. I got to go. Pointless rambling is fun. All right. Well, thank you very much. I've even got, this is a squash. It's only squash. It might look like something else in the stream. But I thought I might need to drink, but because I've been so busy talking, not really had much time to drink. All right, I'm going to end it now. Thank you very, very much indeed. That was great. Thanks. Bye, everyone.